dive right into the fourth national climate assessment issued by the U.S. government last week. If you substitute the lexicon, global warming, for all the damage that's supposedly done through climate change, if we flip that to global cooling, it's a perfect playbook for what Valentina Zarkova, her team has forecast for global food shortages in 2028. Agricultural losses so gargantuan that it'll affect our society. They say it's global warming. We're just going to flip the words through the report here to cooling and see what we come out with as a forecast.
And with that being said, thank you so much for the 15 million views that we have accrued on this channel. 67,000 plus subscribers, and it's on the road to 100,000 right now. Yet somehow the report always leaves out any natural inputs into greenhouse gas emissions. They didn't even acknowledge the sun in any driver whatsoever on our planet's weather systems. And it's really all about when our crops are ready to harvest and they're pounded by hail. This is going to be our new harvester, a shop vac. And this is where we're going as the grand solar minimum intensifies. We need to start talking about solutions right now and having more of an open mind than just CO2 driving everything. And during these uncertain times, I've teamed up with My Patriot Supply long-term food storage, a nice affordable starter kit, 2-week food supply, 1,500 calories per day, breakfast, lunch, and dinners, plus the 4-gallon storage containers included in that. This is a good first step in getting more self-sufficient. And if you click through the Prepare with ADAPT 2030 page in My Patriot Supply, you can get this starter kit for $75. Please remember there's a limit of 2 per household in this special offer.
I cannot believe they would allow the fourth climate assessment from the United States government to go out talking about 6 degrees Celsius of warming temperatures within 80 years. It's only warmed just barely half a degree over 40 years.
In the information brought forth to you in the fourth National Climate Assessment, NOAA, NASA, IPCC, and a host of other institutions, universities. And remember, these were the same persons that assured us that Mars had no atmosphere, no water, life could never be there. And now they're showing us a pole, and life and water was always guaranteed to be there. Science is always changing. In the 1970s, if you were alive then, you knew what the story about Mars was. Completely different than today. And we should take the same open mind to new discoveries in the climate world as well. Now, I'm looking at this fourth National Climate Assessment in a different light, thinking, all right, if we just switch rising temperatures and extreme heat with global cooling and grand solar minimum, it's a perfect playbook for what's going to happen over the next 10 to 12 years. Droughts, wildfires, heavy downpours, atmospheric rivers, atmospheric compression events, disrupted agriculture, decreasing crop yields, decreasing crop quality, and food insecurity. And then I added my own sentence in the blue at the bottom, due to increased galactic cosmic rays and a weakening magnetosphere, shifting jet streams and creating more cloud cover. I encourage you to follow the links that I wrote on there, which I would have included in their report. Svensmark, the cloud mystery, and also atmospheric structures in the global electric circuit, which can be found at Suspicious Observers. And also a little bit disappointed about a national level assessment, not even talking about the sun. Everything is completely 100% human caused in this report. They talk about natural variability. They left out any talk of a grand solar minimum, even though solar physicists and those at NASA have been talking about this for years, plural, and they still left it out. No talk of global cooling at all, 0%. Another huge letdown was the greenhouse gas emission sources. I understand that we're polluting the planet. I understand we're polluting our oceans. I get it. We need to pull back on a lot of stuff like the addition of plastics to our ocean water. Not good. But in the whole climate debate, if you're going to have the debate, please also include things like termites, volcanoes, peat bogs, decomposing forests, etc. that add a very large amount of the total greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. It's not just all human-induced CO2 going up there. It's just a percentage of the overall total. Nature's doing a very good job adding CO2 back. And I've linked everything below, so as I jump around through the report here, you can find the chapters and the sources to go back to and then reference this and read deeper if you're looking for more information. What's interesting, the observed changes in the global climate. Now, we've had the satellite record since 1979 up until today, but what they've chosen to do was start at 1986 to get the temperature, and I'll show you what I mean here. But they also say that the global temperatures caused the pause, temporarily slowed down or even reversed by natural variability, but they don't even really go into what the natural variability is. That's about as much natural variability as you're going to get in this several hundred-page document. So case in point, where did they choose to start their temperature run-up? 1986. Why did they choose the very coolest point to start from so then they could show the most warming? Why didn't they start at the satellite record back in 1979 at rate 0.3 of a degree below the baseline? Why did they start in 1986 and pull the coolest temperature at half a degree below? And the other yellow circle on the right side is where we are now at 0.22. Now, keeping in mind the red line is the average through the center there. If we do start back in 1979, we're not even at a half a degree yet of total warming since the satellite era began. And these global temperatures are forecast to decrease further as we enter into the grand solar minimum. We might get some respiting warming. Solar cycle 25 when it kicks off again, slightly, before we drop straight into a full-on grand solar minimum. But during this time, there's going to be so many pronounced effects happening. Now, that prior chart is in Celsius. This chart here that's included in the fourth national report is in Fahrenheit, so a little bit different here. So I circled the two areas that are in question. Again, the 1980s, 1979, notice that they show an uptick and then up again and up again and up again, and then these temperature pullover before it even shows some sort of pullback is still up well over 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not true. So what I wanted to do is line these up for you here. Those arrows is really the point that I wanted to show you. Bottom graph is from the report. Top graph is from Dr. Roy Spencer over at the University of Alabama, Huntsville. The arrows point to the same time frame. Now the bottom chart there, notice how it's just up and up and up and up and it never pulls back. But notice where the satellite temperature data is coming from University of Huntsville, Alabama. From 1979 through 1986 and 87, it cooled. But at the bottom chart, I don't see any cooling anywhere from there. It's just straight takeoff, rocket ship up. No pullback. I think it's kind of a misleading chart. Regardless if it's Fahrenheit or Celsius, we're getting two very different temperature fingerprints here.
Thanks to global warming, the temperature will soon go through the roof, and then we'll have an endless summer.
Ooh, the endless summer does sound fun.
And profitable.
And it's all about the money. Follow the money. 6 degrees Celsius rise. That's 12 degrees Fahrenheit for you and I. It is going to be an endless summer, swimming all year round. So how many possible problems could there be that we need to fix, that we need to get tax dollars, that we need to start new funds, and oh, the money is just going to roll in like a tidal wave? U.S. heavy precipitation, global warming. Every possible thing that you see as an industry here affected by global warming. Throw more money at it. It's got to be more money. From coastal property and sea level rises, extreme mortality, labor, inland flooding, coral reefs, freshwater fish, bridges, air quality, roads, you name it. Throw more money at it because we got global warming. And my jaw dropped when I saw this part here. They actually talk about using geoengineering to mitigate the climate and some of this warming that's not happening. First paragraph there, moreover, a sudden cessation of large-scale solar radiation management activities, SRM, could lead to very rapid climate changes. Although a gradual phase out of SRM as emissions reductions and that CDR is carbon dioxide reduction, they're talking about pumping it in the ground, are phased out, could avoid these abrupt changes. Now for me, that's reading that it's already in play and they're talking about what will happen if they stop it. Now it's in your face right now. They're talking about geoengineering all over the place, not just with nanoparticulate metals. Now they're actually talking about pumping sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere to try to reflect light. And then they go on talking about the assessments and the cost feasibility. But the way I'm really reading this is it's in play, and they're talking about a sudden stop to it, what runaway climate effect this will have. But they'll have to throw more money at it.
The endless summer does sound fun.
And profitable?
We're going to need more money to try to mitigate all the sea level rises. Now, this chart here is indicative of what the scare tactics are throughout this entire document. This is my personal opinion, though, the way I'm looking at it. Sea level rises, this is in feet, not meters, from 1800 to the year 2000 are pretty much stable, a foot over 200 years. Yet suddenly, even though we've been told all these things are happening in the atmosphere, all the ice is melting for the last 40 years, it's barely risen the ocean levels at all. Yet over the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to go into some runaway, complete melt, blue ocean water event when the Arctic is gaining ice at the moment. So is Antarctica and Greenland. Yet somehow this is going to magically run away in just a couple of years, and it hasn't done in the last 40, 45 years. Wait, what happened? I've been waiting. Why are the millionaires and billionaires still getting loans to develop on the beaches? They wouldn't get loans if they didn't think it was going to be repaid. Big money knows this is a joke. Now wait a second, I thought the climate was settled. We've been sold that as a bill of goods and sale forever. The science is settled. Yet right in the center of this report, they talk about extreme events and atmospheric circulation, how climate change may affect specific types of extreme events, but they're not sure because possibly in ways not captured by current climate models. Well, if the science is settled, then that last sentence should just unsettle everything because important areas of research where scientific understanding has advanced, meaning that they learned something that they didn't know before. And what we're always doing, science, grand solar minimum, it's going to cool the planet. We're going to learn how this happens. But on the ground, the extreme weather is being caused by vortices in our atmosphere. And I encourage you to take a second look at a different opinion, atmospheric structures in the global electric current. This is an amazing presentation by Eugene Bagashov. Highly encourage you to watch this. It's over on Suspicious Observers. They, at the IPCC and NOAA and these other climate institutes, are baffled as to how our atmosphere is changing so quickly with all these vortice events, heavy atmospheric events, extremes in mid-latitudes, atmospheric circulation anomalies, and it can all be explained right here. Global electric current. Our sun is going into a decreased state of activity. Think of it as an electrical charge, because it is. If it decreases in its charge, then something else has to equalize. It's an electromagnetic connection from our sun to our earth. Our magnetosphere is weakening, and we have these ground to atmospheric electromagnetic connections and space. Now, if the biggest thing electromagnetically in our solar system decreases, what do you think is going to happen? We're going to be overcharged. This is the reason that so many anomalies are happening electrically in our crust and in our atmosphere. And as this presentation rolls on, it fills in all the blanks as to why the giant water spouts are happening, why the jet streams are shifting so far out of their normal patterns, including the equatorial vortex coming all the way to Norway from the equator, and what we're seeing right now from the Arctic vortex coming all the way to Cuba and further south into the Caribbean. Reduced solar activity equals higher cosmic ray flux. Now you got to realize that ionization is the key word here of the atmosphere. There's higher conductivity. Again, we're talking about electromagnetic connections. If something's more highly charged, it needs to discharge. You're going to get these stronger vertical currents, intense formation structure in the jet streams and in the thunderheads, and this is why you're seeing such intense hail. Massive weather fronts slamming against each other with 100-mile-per-hour winds, atmospheric compression events, 8 feet of snow in single storms, increased vorticity. This is where we're seeing these giant water spouts that are now like EF3 and 4 tornadoes over water. This is exactly what's happening. Intense Rossby waves, the jet streams are undulating all over the place. And here, The meridional airflows, which the report referenced, is they just can't figure out the atmospheric circulation anomalies at the mid-latitudes. Well, here it is. NOAA, NASA, IPCC, and everybody who was involved with this national climate assessment, you need to start looking at electrical influences, not just CO2. These weather anomalies are not going to stop. They're going to get more and more and more intense. And what was the number one takeaway that I got out of this presentation from Eugene Bogushov here? The directed current down a long needle straight over the oil, and the electric current coming off of that caused what you're seeing, these granules on the right side, the oil under ion wind. They put a piece of glass in there, and sure enough, the other side cut off because it's the wind. It's the ion wind. And we get the same effect in the solar photosphere. And with reduced solar activity, we get higher ionization in the atmosphere. That is such a 1 + 1 = 2. I just don't see how the people that are getting paid millions of dollars and all this funding can't even consider the possibility that it's not CO2, that it's something else natural outside of our own atmosphere, in space. How about our star? You know, they didn't even reference or talk about solar activity in this whole report. I didn't see it anywhere. Perhaps I missed it, but if I did, please point me in the right direction, because I went through that. I spent a lot of time in this report looking through it. They didn't talk about causation. They didn't talk about grand solar minimums. They didn't talk about sun cycles, sunspots, etc., driving climate on the planet. It was in passing. Oh, natural variability. Maybe it doesn't. No. And for those of you watching this type of information for the first time, where do you think our Earth is in there? It's at the bottom left of Jupiter. That's how small our Earth is compared to the sun. And when that thing changes, its electrical state, its electromagnetic connection to our Earth changes also. And we're getting all these changes that are explained so clearly and succinctly in the global electric current specifically. This presentation by Eugene Bogushov this is like one of the pieces of the puzzle. When at the end of this, you shall be enlightened. And as we know, with decreasing solar activity, then there's an increase in galactic cosmic rays that are responsible for greater cloud cover in the atmosphere. Yet this is somehow dismissed as well. Got to be CO2. We need more money. We need a global tax. We need to reduce your consumption. You can't drive, you can't eat, you can't fly, you can't do anything. Just got to be a serf living in like a 2-foot square box, and that's your reality, right? That's what they want to get you into. I don't agree with that at all. There's more than enough resources on this planet if utilized correctly. And here comes NASA warning that the long cold winter will bring months of record low temperatures. What were they referring to? Oh, changes at the upper reaches of the ionosphere, cooling. Now, how can all this be overlapped? This is not a coincidence that all these same areas in our atmosphere at the reaches of space and everything is overlapping everywhere you look in these news articles. And from NASA and the European Space Agency, they're referencing the exact same things. But I just don't see how the National Climate Assessment can't put it in there. We are declining in solar activity. We're going to head back something we haven't seen in 400 years in temperatures. Our agriculture is going to be affected, and that is the reason I bring you this channel and I do this research for these videos. See, this is what we need when we're harvesting. Nice, dry, ready to harvest until it's bombarded by wind and hail. And here's what you get. This is your food left on the ground. So what's going to happen? Are we going to go around through millions and millions of square kilometers of food growing area on the planet and Hoover vac that thing up? Because this is what it's coming to, a shop vac for our harvesting. They're not even talking about a plan B. There's no plan B in this climate assessment report. Talking about agricultural zones going offline due to cold. Nope, it's all heat. Everything's heat. It is so biased, this report. And even in their byline, they say, well, we try to get unbiased measurements in here. I personally don't think so. It's my own opinion, though. But to my great disappointment, they didn't even put 1/5 of 1/8% about solar activity or even the possibility of a grand solar minimum coming in affecting our food production. The only way it really happens is, like I said, if you switch all the lexicon and you turn everything from global warming into global cooling, then you get a perfect playbook for what's going to happen to our societies as we move forward with this. And I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Please remember to subscribe to the newsletter that I'm putting out about every 10 days. Some updates of interesting happenings across the planet. Go over to oilseedcrops.org. Wait there for a couple seconds. The pop-up box should come up. If it doesn't, just scroll your mouse around there. It'll come up after about 10 seconds. And also, you can get more in-depth analysis at Mini Ice Age Conversations Podcast. And please remember to subscribe to the channel, but you're going to have to really focus on clicking that bell because I have a lot of subscribers saying, whoa, I was kicked off your channel, not getting any of your notices. You got to subscribe and click the bell. And you're going to have to check back periodically because somehow in this whole climate debate, I seem to lose a lot of subscribers that have to resubscribe even though they've clicked the bell.